A judge has ordered Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, to appear before the Atlanta area grand jury in its investigation into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Investigators are pointing to, among other things, Meadows' involvement in Trump's infamous call with Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Take a listen.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Joining us now is CNN political analyst and senior political correspondent for the New York Times, Maggie Haberman. She is also the author of the new book, Confidence Man, The Making of Donald Trump and the Breaking of America. Maggie, so great to have you with us this morning. First off, what are the implications for this investigation now that the court has ordered Meadows to appear?
So we don't know yet whether Meadows is going to try to appeal. We know these lawyers say that they're looking at all of their options, but should Meadows testify, he obviously can provide key insights, not just into conversations that were happening around the White House broadly, but certainly, you know, what Donald Trump himself was saying, and I think efforts the prosecutors would eventually make, that's not what this grand jury would be, but eventually make, should they move ahead with a case to try to describe what Donald Trump's state of mind was. Meadows is key in all of these investigations. He just has not been forthcoming.
What would this mean, even if he appeals, but he ultimately has to testify, what would this mean for former President Trump's legal exposure, potentially?
Look, potentially Meadows could speak to what Trump was telling people, what was on his mind, what his state of mind was. Brianna, one of the things that has come up with Donald Trump repeatedly in these investigations, and this is a key in any investigation, but it has been problematic for prosecutors and investigators over and over with Trump, is getting someone who can speak to intent. Now, I think there is a hope that Meadows could be someone who could do that because, you know, that is key if prosecutors move ahead with a case. And Meadows can speak to various activities that were going on. He can speak to what Trump was talking about. He can speak to what members of Congress were engaging with the White House. So he offers a pretty broad perspective.
Do you have a sense, Maggie, of how Trump himself is reacting as yet another potential domino falls?
This is not actually a case that Trump is that focused on because it is, you know, anything that is even slightly in the distance is not really top of mind for him. He is much more concerned right now with a bunch of the other cases, particularly not criminal ones. He's really focused on things like the E. Jean Carroll case, and he is focused on the New York Attorney General case into his company and the upcoming trial of his company in Manhattan.
So I want to ask you about a pretty interesting moment on tape. This is from a documentary where former President Trump is taking Blake Masters to task. Masters, of course, the Arizona GOP Senate candidate. He had sort of moderated in a debate when it came to talking about the election lie and election fraud in Arizona. And this is the phone call. And Trump is holding up Kari Lake, who, of course, is running for governor in Arizona, as the model for what Masters should do. We don't know exactly when this phone call took place, but it would have been after the October debate. Here it is.
And if they say, how is your family? She says the election was rigged and stolen. You'll lose if you go soft. You're going to lose that at the base.
I'm not going soft.
So he says, I'm not going soft. But of course, we'd seen Blake Masters. He had removed from his website some stuff about election fraud. He had kind of moderated, Maggie, what he was saying, right? But then after he got this call from Trump, it appears he might have kind of taken his advice.
It's very interesting because Masters is yet another candidate, and we have seen a bunch of these, Brianna, over the last couple of months, who are afraid of offending Donald Trump because Donald Trump could then attack them and hurt them in their races. On Trump's part, Trump has been saying for well over a year that this is something that he thought the candidates needed to be focused on, that, you know, he was privately criticizing candidates who weren't talking about it, you know, that he believed that focusing on the 2020 election was something that he wanted to press officials to do because, of course, it all relates to him. But it is really striking actually getting to hear a phone call like that and watching, you know, as the candidate tries to soothe Trump so Trump is not upset.
It is.
What does it signify, do you think, Maggie, that we now know that Trump is going to be holding a rally in Florida with Marco Rubio, but not with Ron DeSantis? And what do we know about that tension between the governor and the former president?
I suppose it could change, and DeSantis could get invited to this rally. He could show up. As it stands now, this is a friction point, and it's a Bigfoot move by Trump. It's a moment of Trump saying, "I'm going to do this in this state. I'm not going to, adhere to what you want in your reelect." And people around DeSantis are not thrilled with it. Again, we'll see how much it matters. I think DeSantis' folks are feeling pretty confident in their race right now, but it just speaks to what we are likely to see if you see these two men, Trump and DeSantis, running against one another in a Republican primary next year for president.
All right, Maggie Haberman, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.